Now, in the book of Acts, it tells us that he gave them judges and prophets about the space of 450 years. Okay, so until Samuel the prophets. Okay, and that's Acts 13:20. And after that, he gave unto them judges about the space of 450 years until Samuel the prophet. Okay, this 450 years is actually a very precisely accurate calculation of all of the sequential numbers in the book of Judges. So we go back to the beginning of the 450 years. Alright, going back to the beginning of the 450 years. Beginning of the 450 years mentioned in Acts is with the first oppression for 8 years. Okay, and this is the first figure that we get in the book of Judges, leaving out the elders period, which has to be computed. So actually the 450 years is the sum of all the numbers in the book of Judges. It confirms that they don't overlap, that they're sequential, that it's one long period, okay? And then we got the elders period by using the fact that the occupation of Heshbon was 300 years, okay? Well, let's scroll down here to Samuel the prophet. All right, right here. Now, before Samuel actually became a judge, he served under Eli, and he was also a judge, but during the Philistines' second occupation, okay, for 20 years. We aren't actually given a number for Samuel's judgeship in scriptures, so this has to be figured or computed. We'll skip over that for the moment, and I'll show you how that's done. We have 40 years for King Saul, all right, and the figure of 40 years is in the book of Acts 2, Acts 13, 20 years. He gave them Saul, the son of Kish, a man of the tribe of Benjamin, by a space of 40 years. David also ruled 40 years. 7 years in Hebron, and 33 years in Jerusalem, for a total of 40 years. King Solomon ruled 40 years. In his 4th year, he built the temple. Now, this is an important date, and this is going to help us to figure out how long Samuel's judgeship is, for which we don't have a figure. So we can look up here, focus up here on the board. Okay, in 1 Kings 6:1, it says, in the 480th year of the going out of the sons of Israel from the land of Egypt. This is 1 Kings 6:1. Okay, now, what most chronologers do is they assume that the whole period was only 480 years. Okay, this is a big mistake, and we can in fact prove that it was more than 480 years. If we take 40 years in the wilderness from the Exodus, and we computed the elders period separately, and we also computed the conquest period. The conquest period was 7 years that we figured, and the elders period was 14. So that's 21 years to the first oppression. Then the book of Acts gives us 450 years until Samuel the prophet. Okay, and then we have some unknown figure for Samuel. But we have 40 years for Saul, 40 years for David, and 4 years for Solomon. Okay, so our total here, 450, 490, 511, plus another 84 years, brings us up let's see here. That's not quite right. Let's do this again. 40 years in the wilderness, 7 years for the conquest, 14 years for the elders period, 450 years to Samuel, plus an unknown number, X, plus 40 years for Saul, 40 years for David, 4 years for Solomon. Okay, now let's add that up here. Okay, 40 plus 7 plus 14 plus 450 plus 40 plus 40 plus 4. 595. There we go. So that's 595 plus X. All right. That is already much greater than 480 years. There's no way to shorten the period to make 480 years. So this 480 years has a different meaning. Okay? It's in the 480th year of the sons of Israel of their going out of Egypt. All right? Chronologers before me, one named Martin Ansey, okay, and he was followed by David Cooper. Both proposed that the 480 years only counts the years when Israel was working with God, when they were struggling with Him and not against Him. So the 480 years omits the time of the oppressions or enslavements. It omits that. Okay? So when we come to Cushan Rishathaim, that's not included in the 480 years. The 40 years of the Philistines, that's not included in the 480 years. So by doing this, since we have only one unknown figure, which is Samuel, once we take out the oppressions, we learn by subtracting the balance that Samuel had 19 years for his judgeship until King Saul was made the king. 19 years. Okay? Now, this is the first witness to the correct chronology. Now we have a second witness. The second witness is the Jubilee year. If we go in this chronology, right here, this is where Israel entered the land here. This was their first complete year. So it says 1/50 right there. Okay? That's the 50th year counting from before, from creation, but it's also the first year of the new 50-year cycle. Okay, so we count forward. See, how many years will we count forward? Let's go back here. Write down this for reference. This Jubilee began in the year 2549 of the world. 2549. Okay. And go down here to the reign of King Saul, first king of Israel. And we find that the reign of King Saul began in 3038. Okay. And that a Jubilee lands on the cycle in Saul's second year, 3039. Okay. So if we put 3039 up here, and we subtract 3039 minus 2549, we get 490 years. So after Israel had been in the land 490 years, he gave them a king. They weren't supposed to have any king except Yahweh, but he acceded to their request and gave them a king. Okay, now something significant happened in the second year of Saul. Let's focus on down here. Okay, it says literally, a son of a year is Saul in his reigning. Now, the phrase a son of a year means that a complete year has passed and we're currently on the second year. So it means he's in his second year. Now, some have incorrectly assumed that this meant that Saul only reigned 2 years, and they shortened his chronology down to 2 years. This, however, considering all the things that Saul did, and that are recorded in the book of Samuel, is quite an impossibility. Saul had to reign 40 years, okay? And again, this 40 years can also be, besides the book of Acts, can be derived by completing the balance of the 480 years. What happened in Saul's second year? It says, 2 years he hath reigned over Israel. And yea, Saul hath blown with a trumpet throughout all the land, saying, let the Hebrews hear. Now, Scripture often indicates something by using language that matches language in the Torah. And this language here, hath blown with a trumpet throughout all the land, matches the Jubilee year legislation from Leviticus 25:9. Then shalt thou cause the trumpet of the Jubilee to sound on the 10th day of the 7th month, in the day of atonement, and ye shall make the trumpet sound throughout all your land. So the underlined phrases here, ye shall make the trumpet sound throughout all your land, blown with a trumpet throughout all the land. What this is saying is that the Scriptures prophetically saying that Saul has now announced the year of Jubilee. Okay, so this is our second witness. We came up with these results by realizing the 480 years do not include the oppression periods. And then we figured out how long Samuel would have to rule, and then we find that the Jubilee indeed matches the second year of Saul here. Okay, let's go down to the reign of King David. Okay, King David reigned 7 years in Hebron, actually 7 years and 6 months, okay, and 33 years in Jerusalem. Okay, now David conducted after becoming king over all Israel, he conducted some campaigns among the Philistines. And we can work these campaigns out so that when we get down to the 4th year of King David's reign in Jerusalem, or his 11th year from his total reign, okay, and we look in 2 Samuel 6:15, when David is bringing the ark up to Jerusalem. And David and all the house of Israel brought up the ark of Yahweh with shouting and with the sound of the trumpet. Okay, this again is a jubilee when they brought the ark up to Jerusalem. So this is significantly matching in the chronology. Okay, and then we come down to King Solomon's reign and his 4th year. Now, what I'm going to do in the next segment is I'm going to backtrack and explain these 480 years in terms of the Passover.